why it's not.
Swag. Yep, there we are.
They know you already.
It's 2 from the website I write for.
So, we are just about to go into round 8.
Round 8. So it's been a long day, a lot of people today, but this is the crucial one, really.
So, as it stands before round 8, this is the current top 8. We've got Fabian Quinn, Paul Culver, Luke Southworth, Robert Tinsley, Daniel Breakwell, Scott Morris, Mark Harrison, and Lee Powell. That is the current top 8. We haven't been given...
we haven't seen pairings just yet. And these are at the end of round 7, aren't they? So
that's how it stands at the end of round 7. We're potentially going to try and get Steve McAleer as our round 8, who is currently sitting...
well, he's down in 12th position.
He's 12th, but he's got the top tiebreakers of 16.
Yeah, very interesting for him. He's on 16 points. All people above him on 18, except the top 2 on 19. So he needs a win, and he can possibly sneak into top 8 with that.
Oh yeah. Well, his tiebreakers are fantastic.
Oh yeah, 69.
He's got some of the best tiebreakers. So if he wins, he should top 8.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, who does he have to get through?
He will be paired up.
Ah, okay.
So the other person will also be playing to get in top 8.
And they'll be very keen to keep win. Very keen to win.
That should be that. I think that's the game we're going to go with.
Okay, so how does it look as far as top 8 is concerned? Because the first 2 players are on 19 points, which if they do you think they have ID'd already?
ID'd against each other last round.
So they'll be paired down.
Probably be IDing with somebody.
They'll be wanting to ID with the people below them, but depending on how the people below them find the maths, they might even 3rd and 4th place might not want to ID. They might not think it's safe.
It's definitely got the potential of there's not that certainty there. They could go, well, there could be some people sneaking up with better tiebreakers, because you look at some of the tiebreakers on 16, they've got high tiebreakers, so they can easily be taken down.
They've played some tough people, and those people they've been playing have been winning. It's a tough tournament.
It's not as black and white as that's going to be the top 8. Some of them won't be able to ID.
It's always very interesting, this, not just because you can look at this and you can think through follow through the maths for yourself and think about what you do in that situation, but people don't always make the right decisions. People don't calculate it properly, and sometimes it's not as clear cut as simply I will do this and this will happen. You have to say I'll ID, but I'm still only 70% to top 8 with that. Is that better than playing it out and trying to win?
And of course, with the thing now where the higher ranking you come, you get to choose whether you go first or second in the top 8.
Right. Yes.
That's huge now.
Oh, very big.
You don't have that random element. So people want to top 8, and they want to top 8 high.
Yeah, if you're winning the PTQ, playing every single match of the top 8 first, that's quite a big deal.
So you get to play first. You get to play the people lower ranked down. So you there is really a thing to play to get the top places now in top 8.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, so one thing I spoke to a few people about is very interesting is that some people. So going first in top 8 is very useful. You want to get as high a position as you can, but do you risk not even being in the top 8 in the first place to do that? Is that something that you want to put on the line?
It's definitely a big sort of gamble that people can take to potentially sort of either do really well or potentially go out just because you wanted to finish higher up. It's definitely sort of a risk and reward kind of strategy thing going on there. Seeding higher lets you first in top 8. Yeah. How recent ago was the top 8?
Well, that comment's from Dan Jenkins. He's a very old-time player from Exeter.
How long ago was it where the top 8 you decide who went first based off their rank?
I think it's about a year or possibly 2 years now. I'm feeling a year. It's maybe
a year, maybe 2.
I think it changed for Pro Tour Honolulu, the one where Brian Kibler beat Paolo Vitor in the final. It was the Wolf Run Mirror, but that was the one I think where they really first did it for a Pro Tour. It took them a while to roll it out to PTQs, GPTs, and so on. But people liked the rule; they thought it was fair, and they.
Well, it made a sense. It made that sort of that point of making it so you were trying to get the top 8 and top 8ing as well as you could.
Yeah, it added something to do on the last round.
Before that, you had the whole thing of, oh well, I'm just as long as I've got in the top 8, I can just sort of ID this, and I don't particularly care because then it just randomises afterwards. Whereas now there's I want to top 8 and I want to top 8 at a high point, so I can get the best advantage for my deck.
Exactly. These players in 1 and 2, they're on 19 points. They're basically locked on points. I don't think there's any. Yeah. I think I don't even think it's possible that they're not in. So maybe they say to themselves, actually, I want to play because I'm in already. I want to give myself the chance of getting that first position.
I mean, you think about it. If they ID again, they're on 20 points. If half the rest of the people on 18 play their games, they're going to be like 6th or 7th in the top 8.
Right. We've just had news that the player in third position on 18
place,
points.
Luke Southworth has been paired against Fabian, who is first. And from the sounds of things, Luke is choosing to play rather than ID.
So he's interested
because there are a couple of 16-pointers who can beat him on tiebreak.
Precisely, this Steve McAleer situation.
That someone who is currently third place going into round 8 is choosing to play because in theory they can't just ID, and we've got our deck lists coming.
It does add a lot of interest to this thing. So sorry Dan in the chat. I didn't mean a very elderly player. I meant
an experienced player,
a very experienced player,
veteran of the game.
He probably hasn't been playing. He probably hasn't been playing for as long as I have been playing.
So the matchup we're seeing is Aidan Brown versus Stephen McAleer, as we said.
Okay.
These are both must-wins to get in top 8.
Yeah, so I've got Aidan Brown's deck in front of me, and he looks like this Wolf Run Naya deck. So Wolf Run Bant. My mistake.
Playing Jund by the sounds of it.
Next level Jund is what he's written at the top, but if you look through, he's got 4 Hinterland Harbour, 4 Breeding Pool, 3 Sun Petal Grove, 4 Hallowed Fountain, 3 Temple Garden. I think he's just trying to mess with us with the deck name. But he's got your classics. He's got Farseer, Restoration Angel, Thragtusk, Sphinx of Revelation, Lockstone Smiter, Supreme Verdicts. It's a lot of what we've seen, and he's really just trying to beat people into the ground with these big monsters. How about yourself? What have you got?
So Stephen McAleer is looking to play Prime Speaker Bant, I believe. Yeah, Steve McAleer is playing Prime Speaker Bant by the looks of things, and then as we said. So what are we saying? Aidan's deck is actually playing.
I would say this was Wolf Run Bant. These two decks are actually playing a lot of the same
Aidan
cards.
with Wolf Run Bant, and we've got Stephen with Prime Speaker Bant. So again, we've got another Bant mirror matchup, but not so mirror match in the sense that they're using the same colours. Not too much in the decks. They are very different dynamic deck ideas.
They look like they have most of the same cards. At a glance, I would say probably 45 of the same cards, just without even counting through it.
It's that sort of like we had in the last match.
All ID'd because the other ID Luke will be set as well.
Oh right. So what we said earlier about Fabian and Luke is that they've ID'd. So a bunch of people have already ID'd for the top bit. Yeah. So this one, the match we are showing is still win into the top 8.
Yeah, the news we have is the top 4 have ID'd, but players 5 through 12 will still be playing for those precious 4 positions that remain.
Yeah. So this match is win top 8.
Absolutely, yes. There are 4 matches, the winner of each of which.
The winner of each of these the 4 winners of these will more than likely top 8. So this is a very big sort of a big win for them. So we will go through.
How are they? Are they sat down now? Are they?
Yeah, they sat down now. Are they? Control Q. No, he's done that one wrong. Crap. Just need to sort it out.
Okay, so it sounds like the match is
the match is sat down.
They're sat down, and we're just trying to get them up on screen. Just a small technical difficulty for now. But the 2 decks, they look largely similar. The Aidan deck, as I said, is splashing for Kessig Wolf Run. He has 2 of those in his mana base, but he doesn't seem to really be playing any red spells. There's nothing in his nothing in his sideboard, nothing in his main deck. So it's really just a Bant deck that happens to play that land for some extra power.
Flashes in for the Wolf Run, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then this Stevens, he's got very much the same thing. He's literally only got 3 colours of mana. He's not splashing red just for this land or any other spell. He's only got the blue, the white, and the green.
Yeah, it's purely the Bant stuff.
Really, where these 2 decks differ is that Stephen's got these 2 Prime Speaker Zaganas at the top end, which he's hoping to use for some, just dirty card draw. Really, doesn't look like Aidan has much in the way of anything that can stop a Prime Speaker resolving. He has 2 Dissipates as his counter spells in the main deck, and nothing in the sideboard stops a creature from coming down. So if it doesn't even, so Stephen doesn't even need a Cavern of Souls. He's got these 2 Prime Speakers, which if he casts one, it's coming in unless Aidan's got one of these 2 dissipates, and there's a chance he might draw a lot of cards. Now, countering it isn't the only way to stop a Prime Speaker. The other way you can stop it is just make sure there's nothing else on the table when it's coming down. If they haven't got that 5/3 Thragtusk, then they're not going to draw anything.
It's a lonely Prime Speaker when it comes out
It
by
really
itself,
is.
isn't it?
It's the most expensive Elvish Visionary.
Yep. It's Ryan looks different. Yeah, we're going to have Ryan potentially come in later in this round, depending on how long it goes.
Yeah, it took all day, but we did get Ryan looking a bit better.
We got there in the end.
Right, well, we've got them in front of us. They started already. So it looks like Aidan's probably cast a Farseek at some point because he's got a Thragtusk down while Stephen's only got 3 lands. But it actually looks like he might have missed one. He has a Loxodon Smiter, which is a fair blocker. It's obviously. I don't think you'd want to just stick it in the way of a Thragtusk because if he keeps the 3/3 side of things, you're not getting any far.
It's not a nice trade by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I mean if it was the other way round, and then because Stephen has these Prime Speakers, it may be that Aidan would consider blocking a 5/3 Thragtusk with the Smiter just so as he doesn't have the 5/3 side of things. So if he gets to Zigana mana, he's not drawing quite so many.
It's the chat is very much pun related.
Oh, good. That's that. I'm all about puns.
My puns have all got done out of the way earlier.
I'm still full of them, so we're good. So Aidan's cast 2 Farseeks, a Thragtusk, and he's casting a Azorius Charm. Now, I don't know if he's drawn a card off that, or maybe he put the Smiter on top.
A Resto in hand. They're 2 of his cards.
Yep. Gripping his deck tightly as well, so clearly hoping for a bit of a top deck. It's a bit of a psychological thing. I always find if you're clutching onto your deck, it's probably because you probably want to find something off of it. So you haven't got what you need.
The Thragtusk is blocking it.
That's interesting. Oh, but
Resto comes in.
Just wants to prevent some damage, really. Now Steve's the same. He's got 2 Syncopates, but he hasn't got any Dissipates. So Aidan there has 3 mana up. I mean, obviously he doesn't know there's no Dissipates, but he could easily pay for any Syncopate, even if Steve did have one there. So he's not going to. That's a very safe play.
Sometimes
I think.
you find that the threat of a counter.
Oh dear, that's backbreaking.
It's almost as good as having a counter itself.
So he even had that Dissipate Protected Restoration Angel play, so that was quite a big play. I think this is one of those examples. So he's cast 2 Farseeks, and I suspect Steve maybe missed a land drop earlier. Maybe it was just that he hadn't played one during the turn when we were watching. But Aidan's definitely ahead on mana, and this is where you really want to be in a control mirror, because you're both gaining life off Thragtusk. The game doesn't actually end too quickly all the time, but just having that much mana gives you the options and the flexibility to do what you want to do with it.
It means you don't have to sort of keep your mana open and pass turns just to leave the signals of having a counter open. You can still play stuff. And then also have the mana left open to counter stuff if need be.
That's exactly right.
So it's for Bant decks, or I'll just counter control decks in general. Having mana open to give the signs for a counter is huge, especially when you've got cards in hand. Even if they're like land cards you're just sitting there with. People get really on tilt when they know they're playing blue and they see mana open.
Yeah, you just sit there thinking, is this going to work? What happens if it goes wrong? Because if you play something and it gets countered and you're in a terrible situation, you put yourself in that situation. Yeah. Maybe you could have avoided it. I think this. So they're both playing Thragtusk. Thragtusk. Oh my word! Look at that. That's brutal. I mean, you take them both because the second. You're fine to leave them with the second half of Thragtusk, because I'd probably even just attack in with all 3 of these here.
Yeah.
If you trade the first half of yours for the second half of his, you're still ahead. There we go. Straight in.
Yeah, look, thankfully, I think the quality has improved of the screen. We did have a bit of a fiddle with it, so it looks like we've got it all sorted now.
I think that's what they mean by the quality of it, yes.
Yeah.
So Stephen back down to 8. Now, Thragtusk, really, it's such a back-breaking card in that you think, I'm on 8 life, it's got 3 guys, I'm so far behind, but you go, boom, there's a Thragtusk, and you're back on 13, you can block a thing, you can block a second thing, you really do get so far back into the game with that Thragtusk.
You also got the fact that if he's dropped the land, he can in theory play his own Serenity.
So there it is. You absolutely called it. Well done.
Lost me tonight, yeah.
Now, a lot of people are saying that with Angel of Serenity, obviously monstrous card, does a lot of work, but the second one is the best one because you get to take theirs, so you get your stuff back, you get to kill some other stuff. Now, if the second one's good, the third one's surely the best one if Aidan has one. But actually, I know from this deck list that he only has one. Stephen has 2. and Aidan has 1.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's even something that changes after sideboarding. So they're not really.
We've seen pretty much all the Serenities we're going to probably see in the game.
Yes, it's as serene as it can get.
I mean, this is the thing. Always the second one, even if it's your own second one, because then you can start looping Serenities.
Oh, isn't that just the best? When you go, I'll get this one back from my graveyard. So you can go ahead and deal with this one.
Don't really care. And then you just put your own stuff in it, and that's why the junk reanimated decks do so well. Is because when you start cycling Serenities over each other, you get all your big creatures back that you can play off the lands, and it's really such a solid thing that you really struggle in standard to deal with because there's not a whole lot of exiling cards that are used.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because one of the few cards that does see some play, and it doesn't see much, is Selesnya Charm. And each of these... Oh, well, actually, so Aidan has 2 Selesnya Charm and a Detention Sphere. But Stephen has 3 Selesnya Charm. That card, the mode of exiling something with power 5 or greater, seeing a bit of a resurgence because of its ability to exile an Angel of Serenity.
Also with things like it deals with Obsidat. It's one of the very few cards that deals with Obsidat once it's on the field.
The nicest one I saw recently was the card from, I think it was Innistrad, but it's 1 and a white mana instant to kill a spirit or an enchantment, and Obsidat is a spirit, so very niche case, but it exists.
It might see a couple of sideboards every now and again just to deal with Obsidats.
Well, people have it.
That pesky old card. It's probably the hardest creature in the game in standard to kill at this particular point.
I think so. There's a lot of good removal that's sorcery based. You've got Dreadbore, you've got Bonfire of the Damned, Mizium Mortars. Of course, that's not going to kill an Obsidat by itself anyway.
But it is itself still a good piece of removal for most cases.
Oh yeah, and that's why you play it because it's so efficient at doing what it is you want it to do. So this is interesting because Stephen's on 8. I mean, those life totals are correct, aren't they? It's not
the life totals are the right. Urgent Exorcism, name of the card, is the one that you were thinking.
Thank you, Stephen. So 8 isn't. I mean, it's not nothing. You can just play a Thragtusk and get back at it. But that Restoration Angel is going to... You could theoretically pip away at it. He's chosen to leave it back on defence because he doesn't want to take, there's 14 just from the creatures there.
This is going to...
But crucially, there's that Gavany Township in play.
Stuff is going to swing through because the Gavany Township has seen so many good plays this tournament.
Oh, yeah,
It's such a solid land card.
The best thing to do is just to have it. You don't even have to use it. It's the fact that you could activate.
Leave the mana open for it, and they can see it. And you put it like he has. You put it right in the middle, on the top, so they know it's there.
A more cheeky player might hide it to the bottom just to make sure it's not visible.
Like this instance, you could sit there and go, look, it's there.
Yep. Deal with it.
Play around it. I'm not.
And this is, I think this is what a lot, blue decks get a lot of their power out of generally, is that it doesn't have to be on board like Gavany Township. It can be something in hand like we were saying earlier with counterspells. It's the fact that they could have it and they can use it, but they don't have to. They could do something else. You have to play around what they have and what they might have, and then you have to play around what they actually have. It's a lot to do.
That's the thing. You really have to think carefully when you're playing against the blue deck because you've got to think. And Aidan has scooped.
Yeah,
in fairness, he was in a very bad situation. At that point, when you're with Bant, if you can't stop them hitting the field, and I've noticed this with a couple of the Bant decks, that they don't run a massive amount of mass removal.
No, he has. He has 3 Supreme Verdicts. I think he was really hoping to find a Selesnya Charm. Well, I think obviously he was really hoping to find a Supreme Verdict, but he would have been happy with a Selesnya Charm just to get rid of the Angel, get his back, and carry on the game from there.
We noticed it in the last Bant pairings we had where it was the dual Bants. Neither of them had mass removals, and then when it was Bant against the Dagus deck, it didn't have mass removal either. So it really sort of struggles to deal with that. In that essence, once stuff has hit the field, it has a real hard time in trying to get back its field position or gain the advantage in field position.
That's right, because there are these, the Bant deck, the other one can just stop them doing it with a bit of a counter or a bit of removal or whatever it is that's going on.
So what do you think sideboard-wise is going to happen here?
Okay, so looking at Aidan, he has from the sideboard, the very obvious thing to come in is 2 negates because they're the sort of thing that can stop your opponents, which I think Sphinx's Revelation is the card you're really looking to stop the most. A lot of the threats are actually creatures, so although you would prefer to be able to deal with them, it's fine. It's fine to not be able to have that flexibility. But he'll want his second Angel Serenity. We saw how much of a dominating effect in that game, so he has a second one to bring in, possibly a Selesnya Charm, just for that effect that you can exile, if you're fighting the Angel Serenity war.
We saw it work to good effect last time.
So guard a host of herons. Yep, very very good. Can't be targeted. There isn't that much which actually targets out of either of these decks. I mean, there's the Selesnya Charm, of course, which would in theory be able to get it if it didn't have the hexproof. But there's also the Detention Sphere. There's a bit of something there, but it's not really a matchup where you target individual things, except for when you get the Angel and just lift everything off the board.
True. So this
I think one way where the matchup might actually be interesting is the Planeswalkers in Steven's sideboard. So he's got one Garruk Primal Hunter and two Jace Memory Adepts. Now, as we said before, actually neither deck really has that many counters. I think they can both go up to 4, maybe 5 counters after sideboarding. So these Planeswalkers are going to have a big effect if you're putting them on a board where they're not just going to get killed by an attack.
Well, as we saw earlier, Jace can rip through a deck if he's given a chance to.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely rip through a deck.
And there's nothing to say you're not just going to go -10. Well, sorry, 10 cards, 10 cards, 10 cards.
You don't need to do anything else with him. You can literally just
the cards can be
put
good.
them on a very quick clock, and it hurts their deck so much that he's almost done enough damage by just doing it once.
Yeah, I mean, generally you want to draw a card or two off it if you're not feeling like you're in control. Yeah. But neither of these decks really has a way of abusing the fact that they're getting all these cards dumped into their graveyard. Aidan's got 2 Think Twice. They both got Angel Serenities, but really, if the cards are in the graveyard, that's where they're going to stay.
Yeah, they can't really do much more to it other than that. Aidan feels like it's the several-month-old version. Almost. The Prime Speaker tends to, in this instance, I think the Wolfrun has been a lot less popular recently. It's slowly sort of started getting less and less used over things like Township, because Township seems to be sort of more the permanent. I have more creatures, and again, it helps with things like Prime Speaker itself, because obviously it gives counters.
Of course, gets you setting up that better,
and gets things up like that. So you find now that more people will tend to run Township because it's in the colours out already. They're not having to splash into the Wolfrun.
Right. So I guess the difference is that mana aside, the fact that, the mana cost of activating it. If you've got Wolfrun, you're saying I just need to have one big guy, and I want it to connect. I don't need to have multiple creatures in play, and this one that'll do. It's going to attack. But if you're afraid of lots of Selesnya Charms, Azorius Charms, that's not going to be such a great strategy for you. I don't think it's going to work out. Trying to get this one in, spending your whole turn pumping all the mana in, and whoop, it's on the bottom of the library or top of the library or wherever it is. But it's Gavany Township. You're saying actually, I think I'm going to have 2, 3, 4 creatures in play at a time. I think it's going to work out just fine. You can remove one of them, but it's going to work out in the long run. So
I think so. I think that's why people are tending to run more the Prime Speaker variant than they do with the Wolfrun version.
Exactly, because they know they believe they're going to have, or at least they're going to sculpt the game in such a way that they have multiple creatures in play, or at least a good big one.
It really does sort of feel that way with regards to what they're doing. So I think they're just shuffling through, ready to start game 2. And unless I think Steve's deck was, I think that the game in that sort of showed how Steve's deck is a little bit more consistent, and I think Aidan's probably going to struggle to sort of keep going through that sort of, to try and keep up with it, because unless obviously he gets a really good hand and Steve sort of trips up, I can't overly see Steve's deck faltering too much in the matchup.
No, I think he's got a good mix. Like people in the chat are saying, he's got a more advanced version. I think he's got a nice mix of cards. It's going to run fairly smoothly for him.
Well, he's got the up on Angels of Serenity. They've got, in theory, they have the same number.
Well, they have the same number now.
If he sideboards it in, which he really
I believe he should.
And then he's got better things in the sideboard to deal with stuff.
It's interesting to wonder what they might take out. Like, I think Loxodon Smiter might actually be the least impactful card. I mean, it's going to resolve, and a 4/4. It doesn't actually beat up that.
It doesn't. It's nice, but it doesn't really interact massively with everything else on the field, because you've got other Loxodons where they just trade. You've got Thragtusks which just trade.
If you trade with half a Thragtusk, you're not getting anywhere.
No, and you end up dying, and they still end up with the 3/3 creature.
And a lot of big control deck, you can sideboard. A good sideboard strategy can be a like a fish style strategy where you side into very cheap creatures and then counter the top end. But
so we've got Aidan.
But
playing the turn 3.
And turn 3, yeah.
Turn 3 Loxodon Smiter.
Be nice if we could get that a bit bigger. But But yeah, as I was saying just quickly, the fish strategy, when Loxodon Smite is the lowest creature, the cheapest creature, let's be fair, it's still quite a sizable creature. When it's the cheapest creature, it hasn't got support. It's it's attacking for 4 on turn 4.
Yeah.
But they play a Thragtusk and it's just a dead card.
This is going through and it hits for a nice turn 4.
Yeah.
It's
And what if he Azorius charms it there? He's still got to draw it again and cast it again. It's not doing anything. Maybe he thinks it's going to be needed to get rid of some of those planeswalkers. Maybe he thinks he has to have the board presence.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It as good as it is in other situations where if you have to discard it, like against Liliana the Veil, it's gorgeous.
Oh, yes.
The amount of times I've gone Liliana, discard a card, and they've gone Smite, you're like, oh, no.
Well, I've been on the other end. I've gone Liliana the Veil, and then I'm going...
your own.
Oh, no, you can't do that. No, I've made Liliana's, made them sacrifice a creature, and thought, well, that's the end of that Liliana. I'm not plussing him. There's no way I'm casting my opponent's spells for him.
I managed to, because in fairness, in my standard deck I run Grixis heavy control, so it's got like masses of removal, like 90% of the deck's removal. So it was a case of Liliana, he discarded it, and I went, all right, at least I can deal with it at this point, but it's wasted a card in the process.
Yeah. So here's he played a Restoration Angel end of turn. Here's another reason I don't like Smiter after sideboarding here is that nobody's really targeting Smiter with any point removal. So Restoration Angel, if it is ever going to blink it, it's just for the it's just for lols. It's just for the sake of it. You're not getting any value.
I mean, that was in essence what happened there. Is I'll Resto Angel, untapping my Loxodon Smiter at the end of your turn just to untap it at the end of the turn.
Yeah, I might as well blink it, whatever.
Yeah. So we've got in
It's just for a 2/2. Is he trying to save some damage here? Seems kind of unusual, but
charm
So what that's
chump block the Smiter.
What that says to me is that he doesn't have a Supreme Verdict and he doesn't have a Thragtusk and he just wants to save damage to try and give himself more time to draw it.
That's really not a good sign for Steve there, is it?
No, it's an unusual. I think it's to some it may be an unusual play, but I think it's an informative play.
Yeah.
It tells you something about what's going on.
Probably a lot about what he's got in his hand.
Exactly.
Or the lack of what he's got in his hand, for probably a better term.
Well, quite, and how he thinks the game is going to go and what he thinks he needs to do to achieve that outcome.
Yeah.
So he's having a good long think now. So
he's in the magic number now. He's got 5 mana.
6 even. There's the Gavany.
6 even, so he's got enough for most of his creatures, and he's got his own Smiter down.
Oh well, clearly I'm wrong. Oh well.
We can't all call off the top the Serenity play.
Well, no. So I wasn't.
That's a revelation for 2.
What I was worried about there from Stephen was the world's biggest. Elvish Visionary.
That's possibly the world's smallest Sphinx's revelation.
It is. That is the world's. Well,
Sphinx's revelation for 1.
Yes. He's so maybe he's suffering from lands. I think.
Yeah.
Did he miss one already? Because Stephen's.
Potentially trade.
Yeah, he has missed one land drop because Stephen's played a Farseek, but he's on the draw. So yeah, Aidan's missed one, and he's clearly looking to find more.
An Azorius charm, I believe. Oh no, Selesnya.
For +2/+2 and trample, that's quite big.
Works. Is there a response from Steve, however?
Now, if he has any kind of, if he has a Azorius charm here, he's made, because putting that on top, A, will stop his own Smiter from dying. B, will stop Aidan from drawing a land. That's two very good things you want to happen.
Big play if he can get one. I think we've frozen the play, so we're...
Oh, just pausing the thing. So we're under suspense. Have to see what's happening here.
We'll see the end result of what happened.
I suspect Stephen's not going to have something to do about it, because if he had an Azorius charm, I believe he might have played it already. So
he's still thinking. So we didn't see the end result.
Oh, you got to give a player time to think.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a big play. So
Aidan's still holding on to it. I normally just like to leave it there and let them deal with it in their own time.
Wait, no, he's letting it go through, so he's taking 5.
5 damage, 2 trample from the Smiter, and 3 from the Angel in the air, down to 9. That's quite big, so Steve's really looking for a Supreme Verdict here.
At the moment here. Oh no, it is 8, yeah, because it's 5, isn't it? So he's on 13, takes 5. Yeah,
yes, quite right, 8. So 8's not quite dead next turn. If he draws and drops a Wolf Run, of course, he can...
or he has another Celestial Charm in his hand.
Oh yes, for just for a giant growth, just get you.
Friend is staying.
Oh dear, Ben. Dear.
Lesbian charms. Well, flavor text.
They do play well together because you can make a 2/2 and a turn with vigilance. Then you can attack with it, make it 4/4 trample. Yeah, I'll go with that. They play well with each other. Supreme Verdicts.
That works.
So I wonder, did he have that earlier and he was considering the pace of the game? Do you think he had that when he cast that Loxodon Smiter previously?
It's an interesting one because obviously that's a cycling with the Azorius charm.
Yeah, he's just trying to find lands.
But it's I don't know, because it might have been he's just trying to delay a lot of damage coming through to then play, and obviously didn't really rate his own smite to the point where he goes, I can use this as a speed bump.
Right, but if he's got like a Azorius Charm or something, then like the Wolfram Bant deck, it has very predictable damage sources. It's not like a red deck where he's going to go, oh, I'll do you a bit of damage, and then, oh, well, you're tapped out, bolt you, burn you, you're dead, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's very predictable. You pass the turn, and it's like, yep, there are the creatures you have in front of you.
Here's what we've got. I've got mana open. It's going to be something like Selesnya Charm.
Exactly right. So maybe Steve said to himself, actually, I'll play this Smiter. I'll be happy to trade in combat. If he kills my Smiter and attacks through, I'll take a bit of damage, but I know I'm not dead,
Yeah.
and I can buy myself a bit of time.
I mean, in theory, he might have been drawing out the Selesnya Charm.
That's exactly. Yeah, you could have very easily been doing that.
He's in mana for Serenity now.
Yeah, because they haven't seen one. I don't think he saw it game one, but he plays it himself. It's going to be on his mind.
I expected it to be there.
Yeah.
So it could have been just a case of I want to get at least one of them out of the way, so that if I want to play something like a Selesnya Sigarda, or not Sigarda, but a Serenity.
Angel of Serenity would be a big
it's
one.
less sort of impactful that they can just go gone.
Yeah.
Especially since you can't do it on the stack with it, can you? Because it has to still hit the field before you can.
So there we go, mentioning it. So I mentioned he might have let the series of play happen because he knew if he did go Wolf Run and smack you about, he had the Azorius Charm as protection, and there it is. There's the Azorius Charm. This is very interesting for Aidan because he's just drawn a Farseek. So if he used the Farseek here, he's losing that Angel from the top of his deck.
And he is playing a Smiter.
So he has to value for himself whether he wants. Yep. So he'd rather have a random card off the top than the Angel.
Guaranteed Resto Angel.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, as we said before, the Angel doesn't do anything particularly incredible with the Smiter.
No, it's not got much of interaction with anything on the field at this particular point.
No,
obviously
exactly.
Steve hasn't got a massive. Probably doesn't have a play to flash in this turn because he's sitting on 3, and obviously he's passing the turn. So it's Steve going in.
Yeah, so I think Aidan's probably saying, well, an Angel's 3 damage, he's on 8, Smiter's 4 damage, so that's 2 hits. I think if he had a Thragtusk, he would have played it by now. He probably doesn't have one, so I'm going to give him this and then see if he can draw one. Of course, I've just noticed from Aidan's hand, he actually has another Restoration Angel in hand, so maybe he thought the second one's got diminishing returns. I don't need that as much as I need. As I need the first one. So big play there. Wow, look at that. Now there's no dispels in either of those, so they don't know it, but we know that's definitely resolving whatever happens. So
that's a 7. I'll have a fresh hand, please.
I'll start the game again. But with all these lands in play, are we good to go?
We're good to go. I'll put myself back in very safe life totals.
And this is the exact reason I don't like Smiter. It now just looks foolish. Smack you out for 4. But whatever, I'm still at 9. I've got 7 cards.
Steve net gained 3 life on that exchange, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And now has 10 mana and a handful of cards. 8 cards and 10 mana. So he's going to be able to play pretty much whatever he wants.
Steve presumably has quite a lot of things to think about here, and quite a lot of mana.
I mean, the Serenity hitting now. Well, we know that he can resto and save the Smiter.
Yeah,
if he wanted to.
But I don't think there's anything that really targets. There's a Detention Sphere. Oh, I'm looking at Aidan's deck there, but Steven's deck.
Steve's
there's 2
play
Detention
his own
Spheres.
Smiter.
Right.
They're liking these Smiters. We were very wrong about these Smiters, though he does have a Gavany Township.
I'm not sure if we were wrong. I mean, I think they didn't take them out. I think we were wrong in respect of I thought they would take them out. But whether we were wrong that they should take them out, I don't know. Now this is interesting because we said Aidan maybe he thought I'll have that Smiter because it can deal two chunks of 4. Yeah. Obviously the Sphinx's Revelation made that plan look foolish, but he's found his own Smiter and he's got the Gavany Township.
He's got the Township. Again, as we said, Township is such a big thing.
Exactly.
It's now made Aidan's Smiter even more sort of redundant in the essence of he's going to pump his up, showing the death, and he's going to take the hit.
Wow, that's very interesting. I'm
surprised he didn't save it with his own.
With his Restoration Angel, yeah, that's what I was thinking about. What has he got? 7 mana?
7? Is he going to put the Serenity on?
I think I saw the wrong Angel in his hand. That's Angel Serenity. No, I don't know about this. I think I would have tried it before combat because, yes, you want it to resolve.
So what's he going to bring back? He's got 2 Loxodons it will be, and a
Oh, he's just showing it for us
So
because he hasn't seen it. So Resto, a Smiter, is that 2
I think
Smiters?
that's 2 Smiters and a Restoration Angel.
I think he forgot about Dre, Ben says. I don't know. I mean, I think possibly he forgot about Gavaney Township, because if you recognise that Gavaney Township's there, then you see that he taps all his lands to do that.
He wasn't hiding it either. He wasn't.
No.
Oh, there's the Lesney charm, getting rid of the thing.
Exactly what we're talking about, and it's exiled, so
it's gone forever.
Yeah, can't even get it back with a second angel. I definitely would have taken the Smiter there.
Yeah,
I think because the one from your graveyard will be nice in the long run, but I think you just want to get rid of the one that's in play.
And I think Steve's in a really good position here now. He's managed to sort of stabilise a lot. He's got a handful of cards, not a car full of hands.
Card full of hands, that's a different thing altogether.
He's got a card full of hands.
That one's got Cypher, hasn't it? One and a blue.
And he's got all the mana in the world that he wants to play with, so did he let the effect resolve?
So what Stephen's referring to there is that, so he cast Angel Serenity and he targeted 3 creatures from his graveyard. Now, had Stephen just exiled the Angel in response there, the return them to hand trigger would then be put on the top of the stack, would resolve, nothing's been exiled yet, so he doesn't get anything, and then those 3 cards in the graveyard, Aidan can either choose to exile them or not. If he exiles them, that's it, they're gone.
I know a lot of people don't recognise that trigger, that they have that opportunity to do it, so it might be that just Steve hasn't had to have that interaction before.
It's interesting, but it's been around for a while. I think it's really come to the fore. I mean, it's the sort of thing that comes and it goes through Magic. There's been stuff like Faceless Butcher, but really, Oblivion Ring, since then, we've always had an effect like that in Standard, I think. So it's not like it's an obscure thing that you'd never come across.
No, but it might just be that he might have forgot. It's a really important game.
He's just thinking,
he's one game away from top 8 in.
Yeah,
he might have just missed the trigger.
People do.
Gone, oh, it's hit the field. I'll just get rid of it now.
Absolutely.
So it's probably where it happened. A detention sphere on the Smiter. I assume that's what was the only target. So.
Well, yes, that's the only thing he can target. But so I was thinking when he cast the Angel Serenity, why doesn't he just take the Smiter from the opposing side of the board? I didn't even think about the exile and response effect of being able to of mitigating that effect.
The PS in PS Bant stands for Prime Speaker, as in the creature card Prime Speaker Sagana.
But had he taken the Loxodon Smiter that first time round, he would still have that Detention Sphere in hand. And that Detention Sphere is actually quite a big card because it will get rid of Angel Serenity, it will get rid of Restoration Angel, Thragtusk, whatever it is that Aidan's got, whatever it is that Stephen's got. And remember, he's got the Planeswalkers, so if he's brought those in, which possibly he hasn't from the way it looks.
5 cards coming down. We're going to Supreme Verdict. That works pretty well.
Yeah,
he's still got 10 mana open.
It's a lot of mana.
So much control going on here.
Where was that Sphinx's Revelation from earlier that really, I think, put the game away?
And there's a Serenity of his own.
So Aidan's got, I don't know if that's one card in hand, I think it's the Restoration Angel from earlier that he got back with the Angel Serenity.
There's one target. And that's really the only target it's going to have.
That's quite interesting. So Stephen looks in control of this, but he could have been more in control if he'd known about that exiling trigger effect.
And in all fairness, it's still a 5/6 flyer.
Oh yeah, well it's more than that. He's got has he got actually 2 Gavanys in play?
He's got 2 Gavanys, but obviously they can't activate this turn because he played the Serenity this turn. So he's got the double Gavany.
But he can attack for 7 if he does have 2 Gavany, which I think he does. He can attack for 7 on this turn, and then that's it, dead. The next turn, another 7. Thanks for playing. Restoration Angel to block, but I think he's drawn an Azorius Charm.
Swing for 5 this turn.
Well, I think Aidan's drawn an Azorius Charm there, but putting it on top, he gets a Smiter, plays it, makes it bigger. So it's much of a muchness, really.
My real name is not Bear. It's just the name that I am known as.
His middle name is Bear.
And Bear Grylls people during interviews. Aha! I see what you did there.
I like that. Thank you, Stephen.
That's probably the best pun.
Oh,
the best bear-related
would you look at that?
All day.
So he didn't attack. Cause I'm not sure if he was thinking about Azorius Charm or I expect he was. But anyway, he makes Prime Speaker. Aidan tries to draw a card. He's got 2 Dissipates in there. He's probably not going to find one.
Yeah.
Sure enough. And Prime Speaker, draw 6.
And in all fairness, he's now got the massive hand of I can dump all these lands that I now no longer need, and I've a handful of counters with a massive amount of mana open.
Yep.
So I can counter anything you want to throw at me.
I don't know if he has a handful of counters, but he'll have one for the thing that matters.
He'll have enough counters.
He's miles ahead on cards. So
and he still has he has the mana to Township.
So interestingly, Stephen actually has 1 fewer Sphinx's Revelations. So in that sort of battle he's behind. But as we've mentioned earlier, I think this game
Yeah.
These games have gone much the way we expected them to, perhaps because he's got, he had 2 Angel of Serenity and and 2 Prime Speaker compared to 1 Angel of Serenity game 1, and he's brought in other big things. I think he's really had the benefit of being the bigger deck and just doing the much bigger things.
Yeah. In relation to what people have said, the winner of this does make top 8. We're almost certain that the winner makes top 8. The people who have ID'd in the last round have been Fabian Quinn, Paul Calvert, Luke Southworth and Robert Tinsley. They're the ones we know have ID'd. I think the rest of them have actually had to go through and play because of tiebreakers or fear of tiebreakers from other places. So the rest of them I think are playing to get into top 8. So we'll have to see how the rest of these games go. But so Steve McAleer looks pretty confident at this stage.
I think this game is over. He attacks with both 2 Gavney Townships. He has to block the Prime Speaker to not die, and then he's taking 7 going to 1 versus 2 massive monsters.
So Aidan has fallen at the last hurdle.
It's a shame. Such a good day for him.
It really is. And Steve McAleer, we believe, should make top 8 in a good position as well. Because he had a really good tiebreakers.
Oh yeah, it'd be surprising if he's not in.
So I can't see him not making top 8 now because of that.
No.
But we'll have to see. When we find out who the top 8 are, we will let you know.
Yeah, so for Ben and for other people, there were, at the end of round 7, 2 people on 19 points who got paired down against 2 of the, a further, so it's down to 11th place, so there are a further 9 people on 18 points. So that's 11 people on 18 or more, and then
there are 3 people on 16.
3 people on 16,
2 of which
one of
have
which was
better
Stephen.
tiebreakers than the 18 pointers.
Yep, so one of which was Stephen, and the other 2 will presumably be playing, and the other one might, the winner of that may even get in on tiebreaks.
Might even make into top 8 as well. So we have quite the interesting set of events for the top 8. There's a lot of people who were on 6 and 1 going into this round, going, I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm now going to go. Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
This is not quite as confident as I thought I was going to be about this. So we have an interesting. It will be very interesting to see when they reveal the top 8 who sort of didn't quite make it because they might have ID'd and they lost out on tiebreaks and things.
I'm expecting between people doing various mathematics, there's going to be someone's disappointed because they haven't quite worked it out.
Someone will have probably messed up their tiebreakers.
And that's a shame, but
yeah. So it'll be certainly an interesting top 8. From lots of things, there's so Bant's obviously going to be represented in top 8.
Oh yep.
Which was fairly explicit. Did it? Ah.
We're told Rush to speak now mid-range. I'm assuming Rush is the name of the deck rather than the player.
Yeah, I don't think there's a guy called Rush.
I know a guy called Rush, but he's American. I mean, he lives miles away.
So we've got Rush, Bant. I think there's the black, white, red decks kicking around as well. There'll be a couple of them in the top 8, I imagine. So fairly sort of. Is there a big bias towards verdict decks in the UK?
I think there've been a lot of them around.
There's a lot of them kicking around. Certainly today, there's been a fair few of them kicking around.
I think the bias isn't towards the card verdict. I think it's really towards the card Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah,
people just want to draw cards, gain life.
I mean, we said it right at the start of the day that some of the popular standard decks come down to the Revelation decks and the non-Revelation decks.
And there's several variants of it, but they are all critically resolving, just revolving around having Sphinx's Revelation and Supreme Verdict.
Card.
Oh yeah, incredible card. It's really, I mean, it's been said before, but it's amazing how much better than Blue Sun Zenith it is.
Yeah.
Like mana requirements aside, just the life gain's incredible. Yeah. People really are dying to that life gain, and obviously the cards are nice, but just not dying is good. Anyway, I think I'm going to sit out now because we have here Aidan Brown.
Okay, so we've got Aidan coming in. All right.
Which one, sorry?
So we've got Aidan coming in to chat to us. So, well, it was an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I think a few misplays on my part when I played the second Loxodon Smiter in game 2. I think I should have just dropped a land and said go. Then had Resto up. I was basically trying to draw for the Wolf Run as the finish for the whole game.
We saw like the sort of you essentially cycled away the Resto Angel to sort of obviously look for the things like the Wolf Run and stuff. What made you decide to run the Wolf Run version of Bant over, say, the Prime Speaker version like you played there, or like the Gavany sort of version for the land?
I don't think Gavany's really quick enough. I like being able to play like a Thragtusk or an Angel, and then in the late game immediately kill my opponent, especially the Restoration Angel.
Yeah.
And Wolf Run really gives you that, and it's better against walkers as well. I think the trample is really relevant.
Yeah, it's trample is a really big sort of big thing. It really can sort of mean the difference, especially sort of when you've got your big flyers like having a Serenity, getting over another Serenity or a Resto Angel and things like that.
Exactly.
And it gets around the whole chump blocking from Spirit. So it is a good card to have in that sort of mid to late game situation. Other than the sort of the game that you just had here, what other deck did you play that you struggled against? Obviously, because you ended up 6-2, is it?
6-2, yeah.
What was the deck that you struggled against?
It was in round 1, Aristocrats.
Right.
And I know this is an age-old trope, but I think it was bad draws. In the match, I played 2 Sphinx's Revs and I think twice, drawing 8 cards, and saw Selesnya Charm 7 lands.
Oh,
and,
no.
I think that did it for me. I played Aristocrats twice more in the tournament and was 2-0 in both.
Oh, right.
I think it's a pretty good matchup for Bant.
It was just a bad sort of game.
Yeah, he played very well as well. Take nothing away from him.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they say it's better to be lucky than good, and in some people's case they get both, and it's just not fair. So you barring the sort of obviously your first and last games, have the rest of the games been pretty much sort of a solid run for you, or has there been any decks that you've
that's right,
sort of had to just struggle and just get by, or has it just been almost like a walk?
It's been a walk, yeah. First. Round 1 was 0-2 loss, and round 8 obviously 0-2 loss, and then other than that I only dropped 1 game all day.
Oh wow!
And that was to red deck wins.
Has there been a deck that you sort of, after building your deck, has there been a deck type that you've sort of thought this is a really bad matchup for me, or have you just sort of is it sort of this deck will work against pretty much everything, or is there one that you've been worried to have to play against today?
I was worried about the mirror mainly. I know a lot of them played Jace in the sideboard, big Jace, and I cut them actually for Witchbane Orbs to give me a better game against Esper. So I was always a little worried about that because there's no real. I've got 1 detention sphere in the list, and other than that, it's trying to get there with flyers over the top to try and remove him. But I think Jace pretty much just kills me.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of occasions we've had Jace basically just rip through decks as it's like hit down and just started tearing people up. So it is something that people have to really sort of put in against, because it can, if you don't, it will beat you.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen. It happens a lot. Just sort of looking at things, you've only got 1 Serenity main board.
That's right. Yeah.
Was that sort of just an optional sort of finisher, or did you think that the rest of it
it's
was
more of a finisher. I mean, a lot of people play the 2 so you can get the loop going when you've got 1 in the yard and so on, but I found with Angel of Serenity that usually you cast it as a 7-mana sorcery, and then you win in the following combat step if you cast it in your first main phase. That's generally what it's there for. It's the triple O ring rather than any sort of loopy trick.
So you went with Farseeks over like things like Pilgrims and Arbor Elves. Do you think that's the sort of better play for Bant rather than having the weaknesses?
Yeah, I think so. There's certainly an argument for the Elves. For me, in this particular list, because I'm only running the 2 red sources for Wolf Run, I think Farseek is necessary to get those out. So quite often, my turn 2 Farseek is for either the Steam Fence or the Sacred Foundry.
It's have you managed to sort of look at any of the sort of cards that are coming through Dragon's Maze? And are there any cards that you're really looking forward to adding to your standard decks for that?
Yeah, I really like, I forget his name, the 4-drop white-blue guy. You name a card.
Council of Absolute.
Yeah, you name a card, they can't play it, and yours are cheaper. Seems like it'd be really good with Sphinx's Rev. Yeah.
We get that a lot from people going, it's just going to be Sphinx's every time.
Yeah, every time. And there's the immediate replacement for Dissipate with the, is it Absolute Silence? I forget what it's called. Counter target spell, they can't cast spells for the rest of the turn.
I keep seeing that going, that is going to be a very good counter in any deck that runs white blue, so it's going to be Bant and Esper are going to run it pretty much exclusively. Just going.
You don't have to worry about not countering their first play in case of their second one, especially if they try and duress you or something like that.
It's a really sort of it's going to see play. I really do think so. I think that Bant and Esper are really going to sort of benefit from some of the cards coming through in Dragon Maze. So they're going to be sort of big cards, I think. So is it really going to be just those sort of cards so far? Is the deck going to retain sort of similar stuff? Are you going to keep the Wolf Run kind of idea going?
Probably. It depends on the rest of the spoilers and how the meta evolves, obviously. But I can see myself continuing to play this sort of style deck, maybe with a few tweaks after today. I actually tested for the past month Esper Control and was ready to play that, and then switched at 3 o'clock yesterday to Bant. But I'm not sure I like the Detention Sphere. It seemed to be a little slow. I think maybe the third Selesnya Charm would be better.
Selesnya Charm has really sort of seen a lot of good plays across from what we've seen today from the Bant decks. They've really sort of come through and sort of taken out, because obviously seeing things like Obsidats or the Serenities coming in.
Exactly.
And stuff that's been pumped by Gavany as well, because obviously the Gavany comes up, makes stuff big, and you can then start exiling it. So it's really sort of a useful card in that sense. Yeah. What card would you say in your deck has been your sort of like go-to card throughout the tournament?
Restoration Angel, without a doubt. The deck would be nothing without Restoration Angel. It's just phenomenal. It makes blocks bad for your opponent. You flick a Thragtusk and it's pretty much game over against most people. 2 bodies, 5 life for 4 mana seems good.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
And especially if you're keeping hold of a Kessig in hand to end of turn Restoration Angel and then drop the Kessig and blast in.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good.
Other than that, the Selesnya Charm has won me quite a few games where people don't expect the +2/+2 trample. Yeah,
I mean we saw it there when the Loxodons were essentially trading, and you went, "We'll charm up my one."
Yeah,
and we sort of think that we don't think he realised that was going to sort of. We think he missed that bit, so he just went straight through and got through it, and we were just like, "That's pretty much that's a pretty solid sort of go through that." I don't think he caught on to. So it definitely will. I think we'll see a lot of play still, and possibly see more play with the coming of Dragon Maze, with the popularisation of things like Obsidat and the Serenity still being.
It was actually a very recent addition at about 10:30 last night. I was originally running 2 Augur of Bolus in that slot.
Oh right.
But I didn't like how often you have to board it out for when you board out spells and bring in permanents.
Yeah.
And so I cut it in the end, and I'm very glad I did.
It's an interesting one, because obviously Augur of Bolus is seen as this, like, it almost hit play really quickly, because everyone went, we've got to put Augur of Boluses because it cycles through stuff. The amount of times you see people either it being redundant, going, look at 3, dump, or it finding a card and you're like, well, they know that you've got that now and they can play around it. It's not always as like groundbreaking as people will always try and make it out to be. It's still a nice card by all stretch of the imagination, but I don't think it's as massively powerful as everyone tries to make it out to be at times. Sometimes it works, and then sometimes
in the right deck.
Yeah, it's good. I don't think it's good when you're like digging for stuff and you can look through your deck, or even if you don't find anything, you can at least you're putting what you want more likely to be at the top because you're cycling through 3 cards.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but in fairness, yours is almost like an aggro Bant.
Yeah, it kind of is. Kind of is. Yeah, it's the choice of Loxodon Smiter over Centaur Healer.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I thought Loxodon Smiter overall would probably gain you more life against the aggro decks than Healer, just because of the 4 toughness.
Well, yeah, it's the 4 toughness. It's that
the 4 power
number,
is really relevant as well, I think.
But yeah, so it's almost falling at the last hurdle right at the end, and we were sitting there going, well, it's a must-win game for both people, because it was a win top 8 situation.
That's right, yeah, winning in.
So we were seeing that, and we saw the go in between, and we were just like, it's really bad to see that in the situation. Yeah. You think both decks are solid decks by good players, and you don't want to see one of them not get into the top 8. It's such a sort of such a crucial moment, and to lose at the last bit is probably quite bad. But you did give us a great game to watch.
Thank you.
So we thank you for that, and hopefully you'll come back and you'll top 8 and walk through it again just like last time. So that's that. Fingers crossed for all that, but. I hope you had fun today anyway.
Yeah, it's been great fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. So that's good. And you've been part of the largest PTQ in the UK.
Yeah, I know. It's good, isn't it? So to do well in such a large PTQ is good as well.
You came this close to top 8 in the biggest PTQ we've had. So
yeah, really good.
That's the silver lining if ever there was one.
It is.
No, and we're probably going to take a quick break now until the top 8 have been announced.
David won the going in with reanimation.
Ooh, so Reanimator got in and Esper didn't. Ooh, we've got a Reanimation deck in top 8, as we've just been found out. So like I said, we're going to go on a quick break. We'll come back when we find out what the top 8 is and what decks are in it, and we'll come back when that's all sorted and we'll be in the top 8. So Swiss is done. We're all done with Swiss, and we'll see you all soon. So we'll